we say they have the either or syndrome. I either need to be working on my real estate business or I need to work on profit share. They don't see how they can actually do both.
And it's an and conversation. And that's the cool part about Keller Williams. You don't have to be the recruiter. So it doesn't have to take from your business. It's just a relationship. The recruiter is the team leader.
Welcome to the Profit Share Mastery Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Press McKissack.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Profit Share Mastery Podcast. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Press McKissack.
Hey, Press. Super excited. We have my best friend on the podcast today to talk all about what we love, which is building profit share while we change lives.
That's right. We got the one and only Nikki Ubaldini with us.
And I tell everybody all the time, Nikki, you only need one Nikki in your downline. That's all it takes is one Nikki. So introduce yourself, Nikki, and kind of talk about what profit share has meant to you and kind of how did you build your profit share?
All right. Well, my name is Nikki Ubaldini, and along with my husband, Gary, we joined Keller Williams back in December of 1998. I had no clue what profit sharing was. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it mentally or physically. It took me a couple of years to even want to know. And I had to learn because I had to teach it. So that's when it was my first aha moment that, oh, this is real. So we're here in the Tampa Bay area, and it's been an interesting journey. Profit sharing has been, the funny thing is that we started out with it's never been about the money. It's never been about that for us. And I think that's why maybe that's why it's been so successful. I don't know, because it's not about us. It's about the other people. I almost feel like I have an obligation to tell people about this awesome company and the opportunities that lie for them here. And then it's up to them. If they choose to join us, then that's wonderful. If they don't choose to join us, then oh well, that's the chance that they get to take, and that they get to take whatever direction they want. I also find it interesting that I don't focus on whose downline are they going to go in. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'll help other people with, bring in people for them. And sometimes they're down in my downline somewhere, and sometimes they're not. And that's okay, because a lot of times those people end up in a market center that I'm getting profit sharing from anyway. So that just bumps my profit share. Like, it all works out in the end. Mm-hmm. And actually, Althea Osborne was a great example, role model for me on that one.
Yeah. And Nikki, I've known you a long time, and really we say all the time that the formula that we teach is, just waking up every day and giving into someone's value gap. And I saw you do that long before you joined Keller Williams. And I think that helped contribute to something you didn't even know would be a part of your life later on, but you were just a giver out of the kindness, just because you're a giver. And it came, reciprocity and beholdenness is amazing. And you created validity and trust with people. And so when you did something like this, it made them look up and say, wow, what is this about?
Yeah, I think it is more about that, Linda. It's about relationships. It's about, it's like you said, giving back to others and helping others succeed wherever it is that they want to succeed, or however it is they want to succeed. If I have knowledge or experience that I can share, I'm going to share it, sometimes whether they want it or not.
Well, we know you're not shy.
No, I am not shy. Mm-hmm.
So, Nikki, two things. Number one is, if you don't mind sharing, how much in profit share do you and Gary make every year?
Well, we have two things. We make profit share and growth share. So, growth share is the worldwide, Keller Williams worldwide, and that was kind of surprising this year. But profit share, we made just under $800,000 in our profit share, and we made almost $50,000 in growth share.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did you go about with the growth share? Did one of your agents go start something?
Yeah, actually, we get most of our growth share from France, but we get some from Colombia and some from Jamaica. Mm-hmm. But most of it comes from France. And that was a young man who's over in our Boca Raton office. And he asked me for help, and I didn't even realize he was in my downline. I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't know that he was anywhere in there. And he just asked me for help, and I was happy to help him because I was excited for him. He's from France, and Stefan. And so I would meet with the folks when he would bring them over, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time, an hour here, an hour there. When they would come to a family reunion, I'd spend an hour here, have lunch with them, something, just to answer their questions. And before you know it, they were launching France, and all of a sudden I'm getting this random money. I'm like, where's this money coming from? Like, we had no idea how much it was. And, it doesn't come the same way as profit sharing. It comes like quarterly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, right now, if it's right, and it is coming quarterly, we're on track for a lot more than almost 50,000.
We may have to write a new course, Press, how to build your growth share
Yeah,
instead.
for real. That's amazing.
That's
and,
awesome.
and France is one of the best, from what I understand, it's one of the best regions. So that's,
It is. It really is. Yeah, actually, Linda and I have already offered to go and teach for them, but we come as a package deal. So it's,
Two or none.
that's
I
awesome.
did do something for them for their family reunion, not this year, but last year during COVID, because it was all Zoom, and I did.
How's your French?
They translate. I say oui, oui. That's it.
So, Nikki, what's interesting is your and Linda's story is so intertwined. And I think maybe a lot of people don't know that story, or maybe know that y'all are connected, but they don't understand the origins.
No, they think we're the same person.
That's true.
They get us confused
Well,
all the
and
time.
every time y'all teach a class, at the end of it, you say, if this was a great experience, put my name down. If it was a bad experience, put the other person's name down.
That's what we do. That's why I went curly today, Linda, so that the people didn't get confused on this call, because sometimes I straighten my hair, and now we really confuse them. Two blondes running around with straight blonde hair, that just messes everybody up. So you want to tell like how we started, how we met?
Kind of give the story of like y'all's two's trajectory and coming to Keller Williams, and then what's that led into opportunity.
Okay. Well, many years ago, we were contacted by a gentleman by the name of Howard Brinton to be interviewed for their Star Power Club. That was actually in 1994. It was April of 94. I remember it specifically because I was very pregnant. And they told us they wanted us to meet this other couple that they wanted to interview us with, because our businesses were very, very similar. And they also had small children. And they wanted us to be interviewed together. So we reached out to Linda and Jimmy, and we got talking on the phone, and we were like, wow, they do have a lot, we are a lot in common. So we got to meet each other in Colorado. And when we did the taping for back then it was cassette tapes, we became fast and furious friends. And so that was 1994. As I said, I was pregnant with my second child, and from that day on, we became buddies, and we hung out. We went on trips, and in fact, Press, you were like a cousin to our kids, and like a second child to us, and they feel the same about Linda and Jimmy. So it's just been a long, great friendship and journey. Well, they were in this company called Keller Williams, and we were in another company. And we were in a mastermind together, a husband and wife team mastermind, which was with Dr. Fred Gross, and top agents from all over the country. And we would just brainstorm ideas and things like that. And at the time, Linda and Jimmy didn't know a whole lot about the company they were with, but they started to learn because Gary Keller started to coach them. And next thing you know, they're introducing us to Gary Keller with the group of us, because he was going to help us, which was obviously the very first mega camp, which was mostly non-Keller Williams agents. I think there was 6 or 7 Keller Williams agents there, and the rest were out from outside. And it was to Gary, that's how he wrote the MREA book. And from that point on, they got us introduced to Gary Keller, and Gary started coaching us, and it took us 2 years. We were a little slow to join the company, but we did join the company, and it was we've never looked back. The things we've learned were not just about business. They were, we raised our children differently. We had consulting conversations, versus a direct parenting conversation. And because I said so, it was not part of our language anymore. We would have, our children have learned how to carry on a conversation. And that's people have said to me, wow, when they were, 15, 16, like, God, your girls really can carry on a conversation. I'm thinking, yeah, because we make them, because we have these consulting conversations. So yeah, so the company's been great. And all
Well,
along the way, we just told people about it.
yeah. And also, Nikki, one of the things that we teach is your validity with the people you're trying to build a relationship is important, because in your example, I always tell people, look, when we got some of the people from our mastermind, and specifically you and Gary, to come to hear Gary Keller, he was nobody knew who he was, who the company was. You came because of our relationship, and you believed in what we were going to get you into or bring you to enough that you came because of our validity with you and the trust that you had in us. And then the rest was about you self-discovering and Gary self-discovering that this would be a better fit for what you guys wanted out of your lives.
Well, actually, as you remember the story, I went very burned out. I had hit my wall in the business. I did not want to sell real estate anymore. We were doing about 300 transactions. And I was just like, I felt like the hamster on the wheel. I'm like, I don't want, is this all there is? I kept saying, I don't know. I don't know if I like this, da, 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 da. I'd always liked teaching. And that's probably why I like the Star Power organization, because I got my fill of teaching there. But so when you brought me, I actually went kicking and screaming. And I went because of my relationship with you and Jimmy, and that I had made you a promise that I would go. And I literally sat there with my arms crossed like this, beginning,
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be here. And as my husband says, my eyes rolled from the back of my head to the front of my head. And I sat up, and I got, next thing you know, by within 20 minutes, I'm up on my knees, leaning in, listening to Gary, like, wow, this guy's sharing a story. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train.
Mhm.
Like, there's more to this business than, and you can use that to help others, and you can give back, and you can build this big, powerful business that's not just about you, it's about other people. And that was really intriguing.
Well, I'll never forget the day, Nikki, that you and I were in the lobby of a hotel, and Brian Fair and Marcy Fair came up to you with tears in their eyes and said, thank you, Gary and Nikki, you changed my life and you changed my family's life. And
that was actually in New Orleans. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I tell you,
second family.
Yeah. I tell you that story because this is really about changing lives. You're not making some people do something they don't want to do. You're really leading people to a place that can change their life.
Well, and here's a great story for you. We have a gentleman who came with us to Keller Williams from our old company. He followed us shortly thereafter, and he did very well in bringing people in. He didn't do it for a long time, but he was not a huge producer, and but he did really great. And he has been since retired. He has some health issues and whatnot, and he left us for a short period of time during the boom and opened up one of those cheap shops that he lost $250,000. Running a cheap shop that didn't make it as the market shifted back. And he said to us, he came up to us at breakfast one day and he said, I just want to thank you, because without profit sharing, my wife and I wouldn't have had anything. And he makes about $40,000 to $45,000 of profit share every year. And in fact, just last night, he texted Gary and says, I've got a recruit for you. Which team leader should I give it to? And he spoke to our team leader this morning, and it's a capper. It's not a newbie, it's a capper. So.
Okay, Nikki, what's his name? And it's in your downline, and we have a website for him.
Yeah, that's right. We can help him.
We can help him be unretired and just do that. How cool would that be?
Absolutely. And I definitely want to give him I'll give you guys I don't want to say his name on this, but I will definitely.
But think about that. Honestly.
Yes.
That could be something that could change a lot of people that are retired, living on fixed incomes, but we're in the real estate world, a huge opportunity.
And was a staple in the industry. He did good business, good integrity. So people know him. And he's a great relationship guy. So that's why. Actually, Mark Olish is in his downline. So now his line.
That's awesome.
So Nikki, something I didn't know about you is that Gary coached you for 2 years before you made the move. First off, we always talk about the right way to build your profit share is actually not to recruit people. It's to build a relationship. It's to help them solve their what we call their value gaps. And then over time, when the relationship's enough, you then get them to take a bigger step. Right. So I'm curious, can you walk me through those 2 years with Gary? Did he try to recruit you? Did he just like, what was that experience like?
Actually, it was funny because Gary Keller personally never asked Gary or I to join the company. And by the way, it was Gary, when we were on the calls, it was Gary and Gary Honey. My husband was Gary Honey, and Gary Keller still calls him Gary Honey to this day.
Yeah.
Very confusing when I would say Gary, they both go, what? But anyways, that's just a side note. He never asked us. In fact, we chuckle about it today and we tease him that maybe we would have come sooner, Gary, if you had asked us. Laughs. But who did ask us was Mo Anderson.
Yeah.
When we went to the mega camp, so maybe Gary had Mo doing all his dirty work. I don't know. I'm just teasing. But when we went to the mega camp, that first mega camp, we went to Alfie Osborne's house that evening, and Mo Anderson arrived. And of course, we all know Mo Anderson, big, bold, bright, wonderful woman, and said, "Boy, I sure would like to have you in my company." And we were like, "Whoa, back off," And but she opened the dialogue, and Mo actually followed up with us every few weeks. So how we doing? Just what are we doing? To the point where Gary actually told her to back off.
Wow.
Because he didn't want us to be scared away.
Mhm.
But they worked in tandem. But Mo was always coming from contribution, though, too. She was never pushy. She never made us uncomfortable. She always made us feel loved and cared for and important. And I think that that's important. But that follow-up piece just kept us connected to the process or possibility of joining the company. I do think at some point, typically, the person you're talking to will bring up the conversation. You don't usually need to even
Don't have to.
I've never come at somebody with the conversation. They come at me and ask me, because after I've already asked them all kinds of questions about them and their business and how can I help them? They say, "Well, tell me about your company."
Yeah.
Now I can get in and kick the door in. So
Yeah.
That's great.
Awesome. So why do you think more agents don't, Press and I are on a mission to help people really plug into building their profit share. It's something everyone has the same opportunity to do.
And
yet some don't.
frankly, do it faster today than y'all did it.
Yes, a lot faster. So why do you think, Nikki, a lot of agents don't participate in profit share when they could?
Number one, I don't think they understand it.
Mhm.
They don't understand what it means and the value that it can bring to their lives. Number two, I think agents tend to get one-minded. They get very busy. They put those blinders on and they just go out and sell real estate. And, when you start having these conversations with them and you say, "Well, how many great agents did you work with this year?" And they go, "Well, got quite a few." Okay, well, why, they're so into selling because they're salespeople versus business people. They don't see it as a business opportunity, which it really is a huge business opportunity, but it's also an opportunity to work with people every day that you really love, that you think are awesome, you're bringing great integrity to the industry. I just don't think agents think that much about it. And I think part of the problem is that us as leadership have failed them because we don't talk about it enough, and we're not teaching it enough, and we're not putting it up in their faces enough, and we're not, bringing the mirror up to them and having those wealth building conversations, about what does their life look like. Too many times our agents are into the cash flow conversation. They're not into the wealth building conversation. And I think so when somebody flashes some, idea that they're going to get something quickly versus building a legacy, they tend to zone out.
So true. We say they have the either or syndrome. I either need to be working on my real estate business or I need to work on profit share. They don't see how they can actually do both.
And it's an and conversation. And my Gary and I are working on that a lot with our ALCs this year. We're actually doing a whole wealth building thing with them. And profit sharing is a big part of it. And they're so thankful because we're helping them with very simple scripts to just, plug their team leader in, and let the team leader do their job. That's the cool part about Keller Williams. You don't have to be the recruiter. So it doesn't have to take from your business. It's just a relationship. The recruiter is the team leader. It was kind of like Gary and Mo. Mo was the recruiter. Gary, was the team leader, and Gary was the relationship guy that was adding value.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
So
that's
true.
great. Nikki, it's easy to hear, Jim and Linda's number, your and Gary's number, and kind of, I don't know, it's just such a big number, right? You think about how much money that really is. Talk about what you've done with the money. Like, what has it given you the opportunity to do, whether that be investing, giving, what has Profit Share done for you just financially and opportunity wise?
well, the biggest thing is that it's allowed us to do things for our family that we probably never would have been able to do. At one point when Gary's mom was aging and needed to be moved into an assisted living facility in Pennsylvania, because she would have nothing with moving to Florida. So we had to find one in Pennsylvania, and they're extremely expensive there. I mean, very expensive. But she didn't have enough money to pay for that. I mean, she had some money, but that was going to be gone really, really fast. And she had in her house, which we sold because we knew she would never go back there. But so it didn't equate to a lot of money. I mean, we're talking, she only had like maybe $100,000, which that's not going to get you very far when you're, when the cost to live somewhere is, $5,000 a month plus.
Mhm.
So, we were able to help her pay for that. And then she became where she needed to have a companion because she was falling, because she was always in a hurry. And she didn't need medical help. She just needed somebody there to make sure that she didn't fall and to just, keep an eye on her, help her with her daily activities. And that turned into full-time caregivers. 20, because we started out with, try to do 12, then she would fall when they weren't there. Then we went to 19, and then she fell in the 5 hours that they weren't there. So we had to be 24/7, or, we didn't want her to get hurt. And that was very expensive. You're talking about 3 full-time employees. So it allowed us to be able to do that. At the same time as that's going on, my mom, who we've always helped too as well, my mother, who raised 4 of us as a single mom, doesn't have a lot, was living on Social Security. We had bought a house. She was living in it. She wanted to pay rent because it made her feel like, she was contributing. And of course, she paid a substantially reduced rent because she could, and we didn't need it. But we were able to do that. But then she was ready to go into an independent living, and we were able to fund that. So at the same time, there was a lot of things that happened. And we also went to back and forth to Pennsylvania every 6 to 8 weeks. Every 6 to 8 weeks, we were in Pennsylvania for Gary's mom. And we did birthday parties for her every 6 months. When she turned 95, we did them every 6 months because we didn't know if we were going to get another year.
Mhm.
And so she thought she was having birthdays all the time. And we didn't just have a party. We would have a party. We would bring in a little band or a singer or something for the whole assisted living facility. And they loved her. And we'd have a big old cake made. And they thought, well, we like Lena. She's the party girl. She loved that. So, but that, those things, we were able to make memories. We're able to, help our kids through college and, things like that. The biggest thing I think that it's allowed us to do is to really hit our philanthropy goals. And that feels really, really good.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you and Gary are the #1 contributors to KW Kids Can and maybe even KW Cares. I can't remember.
I don't know about Kids Can. I know for KW Cares we are, but I don't know about Kids Can. We are a contributor to Kids Can as well. But the KW Cares is very near and dear to our hearts as well. We've watched them do some amazing things for some of our agents here in the South Florida region, as well as agents across the nation. We tithe 10% back of all of our profit share to them, and then some. We also give other times as well, like when we're doing Red Day and stuff like that. But we tithe back to them because we think it's important.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it just allows us to. We have several nonprofits that we have aligned ourselves with, that we feel confident in what they're doing. We love what they're doing, and we hit a really big number in 2021, and we were really excited about that in our philanthropy.
That's awesome. So Nikki, what would be, as we close out here, what would be one bit of advice you'd give people who are starting to listen to our podcast, starting to think about maybe, spending more time and energy around, building their wealth while they change other people's lives? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to remember that you're not doing something to somebody, you're doing something for somebody. And that you owe them the opportunity to decide for themselves whether it's the right place or not. We don't have the right to make that decision for somebody. And I think too many times we prejudge and say, oh, well, they wouldn't be interested, so I'm not even going to talk to them, or they're really happy where they're at. You don't know that. And I think that we got to remember that we're doing something for somebody and not to them by sharing the amazing company that we're in, and what it can do for them. And then with that is the reward of potential profit share.
That's awesome. Love it. Well, Nikki, thank you. And I would just want to remind everyone, if you have not hit subscribe, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. And please pass this podcast along to any KW agent that you think would benefit from listening to our Profit Share podcast. And it drops every month on the 21st. So pass it along to anybody in your office that may not know about it. And if you want to know more information about Mind Impress's Profit Share Mastery course, where you watch the course online, and then once a month you do a phone call with all of us where we help you grow your profit share. And then now with the new websites that Press and Josh have put together on helping you be able to recruit a lot of new agents. And we just want to say, Nikki, thank you for seeing the opportunity years ago and changing as many lives as you've changed. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Nikki.
Yeah. So we'll see you next month on the 21st.
All right. See you soon.